afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our next session in Indian Polity. Today, we're going to discuss about citizenship and then introduction of fundamental rights. So, let's get started. So, here, if you can see, what exactly is the word citizen mean? Well, it means that a resident of a city who enjoys certain privileges of such residents. Well, it's if we want to derive or decode it into a very general form, a person who stays in a resident of a particular territory or a particular city or something, and who enjoys that city territories privileges and everything, he is known as citizen. And this word is actually derived from Latin, which is civics. So, and the ideology of this citizenship was actually developed by Greeks. So they got this ideology of maintaining a citizenship. So they are the one who started this citizenship concept. And the people's revolution against dictatorial and absolute rulers in England, America, and France brought down them and established a new form of government called democracy. Well, actually, citizenship is also one of the major impact in democracy, because that's what I've just given. If I wanted to tell you in a very normal format, like in England, in America, and France, where the people actually revolted against their dictatorial relation, dictatorial rulers, and that's how they wanted to start a democratical society where the citizens have the rights and where they're going to be a proper citizenship format for them. So that's how the democracy ideology was also started. And in democratic countries, government provides citizenship to the citizens and also provides certain rights and imposed certain duties. Well, if you can see in the democratic countries where the citizenship was actually given to the citizens, and with certain rights, like where we have some rights to enjoy the privileges provided by the countries or the democratic constitutions, and there are certain duties that, well, you know you just can't only enjoy the rights, you need to have some duties to maintain and impact for the development of the society, and you have to responsible for a very good responsible democratic society as well. So that's why we need to have certain duties as well. So that's how the democratic governments will provide certain rights and impose certain duties on a citizens. So if we come to our democratic country, which is like India, we have a single citizenship, as we all know that. And for an other example, which is like United States, where they have dual citizenship. As you all know, I've explained in our last classes also, dual citizenship, where they have a state citizenship along with the country citizenship. So that's how a brief intro about citizen and citizenship. Now let's get to our major topic, which is Indian citizenship. So, there was no Indian citizenship before 26 November 1949, because before 1947 we have a British crown, so there is no concept of citizenship, except they've just divided the territories like British provisions and princely states as like that. And why? Because see, why before 1949, why we mentioned that, but after 1947 independence was given, but till this time we are drafting our constitution. So that's how we still don't have our citizenship conceptual at the time of drafting the constitution. So that's why till 1949 there is no concept of citizenship in India. So, as I mentioned here, the British subject citizens under the British Crown and British Protectorate persons who were resident of princely states, I've mentioned over here. So now, India has two kinds of people, where citizens and aliens. Well, India defines people into two kinds, where the citizens, who are the very full members of Indian state and own allegiance to it, they enjoy all the civil and political rights. Like the full members who are nothing but we. So we own the full rights in our country, civil and political rights, whereas when it comes to the aliens, where on the other hand it's like the citizens of some other state and hence do not enjoy all the civil and political rights. So the aliens are nothing but the people from other countries or other foreign territory. So those people we gotta define them as aliens, and they don't enjoy all the civil and political rights as we do. And if you can see, there are two kinds of aliens as well, where the friendly aliens and the enemy aliens, where they do not enjoy protection against arrest and detention. Well, the friendly aliens is nothing but we have a friendly relationship with other countries, other territories. So there, so those people we can define as friend, and where we have an enemy territory, so those people will be defined as enemy aliens. So I hope you all understand these. And now, constitutional basis of you know citizenship in India. So though India is a quasi-federal is nothing but we have the derivations of center and state. So a federation was divided into center and state, where the states have their own set of rules and regulations. Yet they will follow, or they will be unite in the form of center or union. Even though the states have their own rules and regulations, their own set of government, but they will all comes under union when it comes to the matter of country. So having a two level governments as a quasi federal, yet we have a single citizenship, because we are like we believe in that we are Indians and there is one citizenship and it's one country. Irrespective of any state, we comes under one country or one union format. So that's why we have single citizenship. And now, from articles 5 to 11 in constitution, lay down as to who are the citizens of India at the commencement of constitution on 26 Jan 1950. See, the 26 Jan 1950, that is the commencement of our constitution was happened. So since then there are 5 to 11, like 7 articles define the citizenship in our constitution. So let's see what are those articles. Article 5, the citizenship at the commencement of the constitution. So at the commencement of this constitution, every person who has his domicile in the territory of India, and well, domicile, whether if you can see, the domicile is nothing but I've given here. It was actually not defined anywhere in the constitution. They haven't used the proper word domicile, but in general, what exactly is this domicile means? The status of being a permanent resident in a particular jurisdiction. So if you live under a particular jurisdiction is nothing but where you enjoy that particular town or city privileges, having a permanent residency, as you do have a permanent address in your Aadhaar, where it is going to be your permanent address for your entire life, because or maybe until unless you're going to shift into another jurisdiction. So that's going to be your permanent address, where you have certain rights, or you use your right to vote privileges, whatever comes under that jurisdiction powers, you're going to enjoy that as a resident of that jurisdiction. So the domicile is nothing but the status of being a permanent resident in a particular jurisdiction. So that's how the word domicile defines. So the domicile, if you are being a person who has a domicile in the territory of India, irrespective of any state, and who was born in territory of India, or either of whose parents was born in territory of India, or who has been ordinarily resident in the territory of India for not less than 5 years immediately preceding such commencement, shall be a citizen of India. So a person who was born in, or either of his parents, or he is living more not less than 5 years, like technically more than 5 years in as an ordinary resident, like as a normal resident in India, shall become by defaultly shall become a citizen of India. He'll get the citizenship of India. Well, here The Article 5 refers to the citizenship on 26 Jan 1950, and this article provides that the ordinary resident in the territory of India since or before 26 Jan 1945 were deemed to be Indian citizens. So deemed to be Indian citizens, as you can see here. Well, what exactly is that? Well, the Article 5 refers, uh, the resident who was living in territory of India, not only um, India, it's exactly even before 1945, even 26 Jan 1945, who were living in India or who wants to live in India, they were automatically considered to be Indian citizens. Deemed is nothing but, considered in a specified way. So that's how they're going to be considered as Indian citizens as well under Article 5. So I hope you all understand Article 5. Now let's see Article 6. So, Article 6. The rights of citizens of certain persons who have migrated to India from Pakistan. So you get the question like, what about people who came from Pakistan? Well, when we all know that the Ratcliffe line which divided India and Pakistan. So the people who wanted to get settled from Pakistan to India, or who wanted to be in the Indian territory. So what happened to them? In what way or in what privilege they gonna get this Indian citizenship? So that's the thing that going to be defined under Article 6. So under Article 6, an immigrant from Pakistan became a citizen of India if he or either of his parents or any of his grandparents was born in India and in addition fulfilled either the following two conditions. So a person who is immigrating from Pakistan, whether he or his parents or his grandparents were born in India. They were born in India. Either he himself, or his one of his parents, not both. Even though we can take a consideration of one of his parents or one of his grandparents or any of his grandparents were born in India. And not only that, if he can fulfill any of the two conditions. What are the conditions? Let's see. So first one, in case he or she migrated to India before 19 July 1948, he had been ordinarily resident in India since the date of his migration. Or the second one, in case he migrated on or after July 1948, he had been ordinarily resident of India. So, if he or any of his, like, you know, if he wants to migrate, so if he migrated before 1948, 19th July, he can be taken as a resident in the name of since when he got migrated, or maybe even he was migrating after 1948 also, he can be considered. Because why we given these particular timings? Because that's how the major migration was actually started. So we divided that migration process in before 1948 or after 1948. So that's a small timeline division. So that's why we mentioned here 1948, or before 1948, or after 1948. So that's how we gonna take the Pakistani immigrants who can get the Indian citizenship. I hope you all understand the Article 6. Now let's see about Article 7. Well, Article 7 defines the rights of citizenship of a certain migrants to Pakistan. Well, under Article 7, where a citizen of India by domicile, like domicile is nothing but a proper resident, which comes under Article 5, or by migration from Pakistan, which comes under Article 6, ceases to be citizen if he has migrated to Pakistan after 1st March 1947. If, however, after migration to Pakistan, he has returned to India under a permit of resettlement, under a permit of resettlement or permanent return, he can register himself as a citizen of India in the same manner as a person migrating from Pakistan after 1948. 19 July 1940. So it's just simple, yeah. I'm going to decode it for you all. See, under Article 5, a person has to be a domicile in India. Or Article 6, he must have been a immigrant from Pakistan. Which like definition of like this timelines like before 1940, 19 July 1948 or after 19 July 1948. So that's how the residents of Pakistan who wants to decide to be in India. Well, it comes to the Article 7 where the person who migrated to 1947, like after 1947, he migrated to Pakistan, but he don't want to stay in Pakistan anymore. He wants to return back to India on a permanent basis. So he don't want to go to Pakistan again. So that's why a permit of resettlement or permanent return. So he was completely returning to India with no thought of getting back to Pakistan again. So in that cases, that person can register himself under 19 July 1948 after the timeline, if you can remember in the sixth article, like after 1948. So on that process or on that migration format, he can register himself as a citizenship of India. So don't get confused, like Article 5, the major domicile, like who actually lived in India or born in India, that comes under Article 5. Article 6 is nothing but the person who is a Pakistani who wants to be migration, like who wants to migrate from Pakistan to India, will become a citizen of India under Article 6. And under Article 7, where the person he went to Pakistan but he don't want to stay in Pakistan anymore and he wants to be an Indian citizen for permanently. So that's how he gonna cancel his Pakistani citizenship on the basis of permanent return. So that's how he gonna be an Indian citizenship in Article 7. Now let's see what Article 8 gives us. So Article 8, rights of citizenship of a certain persons of India origin residing outside India. So under Article 8, we're gonna see now. So according to Article 8, a person who or either of whose parents or any of whose grandparents was born in India, which is like before independence, but who is ordinarily residing in any other country outside India and Pakistan together may register himself as a citizen of India with the diplomatic or consular representative of India in the country of residence. Well, it's nothing but if I want to decode it, it's like the present is NRIs, or I'm just giving you an idea of like how the NRIs, you must have know the NRIs part. So that's why I'm giving you that, where see, Article 8 defines a person or any of his parents or any of his grandparents were born in India before independence, but they were born in India, but they actually got settled outside India or Pakistan. Like combined India and Pakistan, they settle outside of India, like which is in Nepal or if you can see here Afghanistan or Bangladesh in our neighboring countries, not only neighboring countries, any other countries. So if they resided there, but they want to have the Indian citizenship, they can contact to the Indian diplomatic or consular representative of our country in their residence. Like if a person residing in Nepal, where he can go and consult our consular representative of India, and he can obtain for this Indian citizenship. And this provision confers Indian citizenship on a person whose prime facie has no domicile in India, and it seeks to cover the overseas Indian who may want to acquire Indian citizenship. So it covers the Indian citizenship on a person has no domicile in India, and it seeks to cover the overseas Indian. So he's definitely not the domicile because he was actually living in outside of the country, and yet which comes under overseas Indian format, where he's going to be overseas Indian. So that's how he going to get his citizenship under overseas Indian. Now Article 9. Well, the persons voluntarily acquiring citizenship of a foreign state not to be citizens. Well, under this Article 9, no person can be citizen of India under Articles 5, 6, and 8 if he has voluntarily acquired the citizenship of a foreign country. This provision thus recognizes the principle that no Indian can claim dual or plural citizenship. If a person under these three articles, if he was voluntarily or temporarily holding an other country's citizenship as well, other country's citizenship, so then he is not going to get the Indian citizenship, because if you want to be an Indian citizenship, you have to have a single citizenship, which is Indian citizenship. If at all, if you can claim, or if you have a dual citizenship, or if you want to maintain plural citizenships, like US or some other country's citizenship, it's not going to happen. Well, it's going to be kind of a termination of our Indian citizenship. So Article 9 applies only to those cases where foreign citizenship has been acquired before and not after the commencement of constitution. Well, what exactly this means? See, before commencement of constitution, like before 1949 also, or 1948, until unless the commencement of constitution, even we can say 1950. So till 1950, you may have other foreign citizenship, or you can have the Indian citizenship. It can be manageable, but after 1950 you cannot have a dual citizenship. So it's a basic or strict rule under Article 9. So the nature of the provisions from 5 to 9 shows that the Constituent Assembly to make some provisions which could precisely determine that who is a citizen of independent Indian dominion and who is not at the time of commencement of constitution. So why if they made so exactly from 5 to 9, what exactly on a general basis derives it? It gonna derive that the citizen or a person, whoever he is, whether he can have, or whether he comes under independent Indian dominion or not. So who can be a Indian citizen or who cannot be an Indian citizen? So that's how the Constituent Assembly make these provisions to determine whether you are an Indian citizenship, whether you are an Indian citizen or not, or you can decide whether you want to have Indian citizenship or not. So that's how these provisions give the privileges to the citizens at that time. Now, Article 10, the continuance of the rights of citizenship. Well, every person who is or is deemed to be a citizen of India under any of the foregoing provisions of this part shall, subject to the provisions of any law that made by Parliament, continue to be such citizen. Well, if this might sounds little confusing, but you know under Article 10, only Parliament of India has plenary powers to deal with the question of nationality. In a simple knowledge, so only Parliament has a right to define whether you are Indian citizen or not, when it comes to any extreme positions to define whether you are an Indian citizen or not. So it's going to define whether you are an Indian nationalist or not, or if you want to give you the nationalist like Indian citizenship or not. So the Parliament has certain powers to deal with the question of nationality, whether you comes under Indian citizenship or not, or whether we want to give you Indian citizenship or not. So these are the major two questions that defines the nationality of a citizen. So that's what the Article 10 defines. Now let's see the last and final article under citizenship, which is Article 11. Well, the Parliament to regulate the right of citizenship by law. So, what exactly is this? So, the Article 11 gives the power to the Parliament to make law in this connection as an and when it suits to demand of the circumstances. So, the power in Parliament vested by Article 11 embrace not only acquisition but also the termination or any other matter related to the citizenship. Well, we have seen in our earlier article, which is Article 10, where it gives a Parliament a certain plenary powers to define or to confirm the nationality of a particular person. Well, Article 11 says also gave the power to Parliament to define whether his nationality, not only nationality, where it can cancel his nationality, or they can terminate, or they can determine that person comes under Indian citizenship or not. So, in simple words, Article 11 gives the power to Parliament, where they can terminate the citizenship under demanded circumstances and all. So, using the power vested in Parliament by Article 11 of the Constitution of India, a comprehensive law, the Citizenship Act 1955, was passed by the Parliament. This act has been amended from time to time to make spaces for provisions as and when required. So, by having this power, the Parliament introduced a very famous act, which is like the Citizenship Act 1955, which we're gonna see now. Where so far it was amended four times. So we're gonna see what are the amendment times, and we're gonna see what the Citizenship Act as well. So under Article 11, Citizenship Act 1955 was also been passed by Parliament, and it was amended four times so far. So that comes under Article 11. I hope you all understand from Article 5 to 11. Article 5, which Article 6, Article 7, Article 8, Article 9, Article 10, and 11. So now let's see the statutory basis of citizenship in India. Well, Well, if you can see, the above mentioned the provisions of the constitution regarding citizenship are not exhaustive but fragmentary and skeletal, where it's not very heavy to remember all these things, but each and every privilege was given under one article. So it's very simple, and it was completely fragmented and skeletal in way. So these provisions are confined mainly to define who are citizens of India at the commencement of constitution. So to define whether who comes under constitution of who comes under Indian citizenship when the commencement of constitutional time, or who wants to be an Indian, whether they can decide, or who are the persons, or who given that privilege to be Indian. So that's what these articles were going to define. And as we mentioned, as I mentioned in the earlier slide, where the Article 11, Parliament has given the law to provide the definite to define the nationality of a person, or to terminate the nationality status as well. So Article 11 gives the power to Parliament, and that's how the Parliament enacted this Citizenship Act 1955 for the Indian citizenship. So these are the major or basic statutory things. Now, Citizenship Amendment Act 1955. So this Citizenship Act 1955 provides for the acquisition and loss of citizenship after the commencement of Constitution. This act has been amended so far four times, as we all know. So Citizenship Act 1986, 1992, 2003, and 2005. So on these years they were amended so far. And now, originally, the Citizenship Act 1955 also provide for the Commonwealth citizenship, but these provisions were repelled by Citizenship Amendment Act 2003, where this was actually given as a Commonwealth citizenship as well. But in 2003 it was actually repelled. So these are the amendment acts which were amended so far in the Citizenship Amendment Act 1955. Now, how well, the important thing, which like the acquisition of Indian citizenship. a little important to know how we're gonna acquire this Indian citizenship. Well, if you can see here, by birth. So, what comes under this by birth, acquisition? Well, a person born in India on or after 26 Jan 1950. So, a person who was born in India on or after 26 Jan 1950, but before 1st July 1987. So, a person who was born on or after Jan 1950 but before 1st July 1987 is a citizen of India by birth, irrespective of any nationality of his parents belong. So, any nationality of his parents belong. And not only that, a person who was born in India on or after July, you know, after 1st July 1987 is considered as a citizen of India only if any of his parents, so any of his parents was a citizen of India at the time of his birth. And if you can see, there was another more condition, which is like after December 2004, people who were born in India are considered as citizens of India only if both parents has to be the citizens of India, which is from 1st December 2004. It's like a child was born uh, after this 1st December 2004 in India, where the parents has to be the citizens of India, like both the parents has to be citizens of India. And they should not be an illegal immigrant. Any of them should not be an illegal immigrant when the time of that birth of their children. Well, if you can see, the children of foreign diplomats posted in India and enemy aliens cannot acquire Indian citizenship by birth. So, even though if any foreigners or any enemy aliens of children were born in India at that time, well, they cannot acquire this Indian citizenship by birth, um under by birth reference. Now, by descent, the second one, like by descent. So, what exactly is this by descent? Well, again, it has three more conditions, where a person born outside India on or after 26 Jan 1950 but before 10th December 1992. So, a person who was born outside of India on or after 26 Jan 1950 but before 10th December 1992 is a citizen of India by descent. If his father was a citizen, why we mention father here? Because we refer father as a head of the family. So, if father was a citizen of India at the time of that child birth, he's gonna get his Indian citizenship by descent. And another condition, which is like a person born outside of India on or after 10th December 1992 is considered as a citizen of India if you know, either of his parents is a citizen of India at the time of his birth. At the time of birth, either of his parents are citizen of India. Well, where the child was born after 10th December 1992 outside of India can get the Indian citizenship by descent. Well, these and if you can see the third condition, which is like from 3rd December 2004 onwards, a person born outside of India shall not become an citizen of India by descent unless his birth is registered. Unless his birth is registered in our country, like in India, uh, at the span of 1 year time. So then he's going to get his Indian citizenship by descent. Well, don't get confused. So the person who was born outside of India on or after 26 Jan 1950, before 10th December 1992, in which his father must be a citizen of India, so that child will get the citizenship by descent. And the second condition is, this is the first condition, that's the second condition. Well, a child was born after, on or after 10th December 1992, in which either of his parents, any of his parents, was a citizen of India, and was a citizen of India at the time of that childbirth, will also get the Indian citizenship by descent. And the third condition is, if the child was born after December 2004 outside of India, where he cannot get this Indian citizenship by a descent, well, any of his parents is residing in India or not, because he, that birth has to be registered in India at the span of 1 year time. So then he's going to get his Indian citizenship under by descent condition. Now, the third condition, which is like by registration. So, under this registration process, where the central government, may on an application, by giving or by submitting an application to register as a Indian citizen, as a citizen of India, any person who is not an illegal immigrant, so illegal migrant. So if he belongs to the following conditions, where the central government do have some set of conditions for the registration process as well. Under that, the very first thing is a person of Indian origin who is ordinarily resident in India for 7 years. So if a person who is residing in India for 7 years, before making an application, like before applying, he was staying in India continuously for 7 years, then he's gonna get the Indian citizenship under registration thing. And the second one, a person of Indian origin who is ordinarily resident in any country or place outside undivided India. So if a person who is residing in any country or outside of undivided India, he can acquire by registration process. And the next one, a person who is married to a citizen of India and is ordinarily resident in India for 7 years. So 7 years is the basic or the minimum requirement for registration. So that's how they're gonna get the Indian. And there are some more other conditions, you can go through them in your Lakshmi Kant as well. And now, by naturalization. So this was actually under control again by central government, where on an application format or grant a certificate of naturalization to any person, unless he was an illegal migrant. Well, he needs to be fulfilled some other conditions in this as well, where he's not a subject or a citizen of any country, where citizens of India are prevented from becoming subject or citizens of that country by naturalization. Well, he has to be, he should not be a subject or a citizen of any other country through naturalization process. If he is not, then he's gonna get his Indian citizenship in this in our country's naturalization process. And if a citizen of any, if he is a citizen of any country, he undertakes to renounce the citizenship of that country in the event of his application for Indian citizenship being accepted. So then that person gonna get uh, Indian citizenship under naturalization. I'm gonna repeat that again. If he is a citizen of any country okay, he's a citizen of any country, he undertakes to renounce the citizen of that country. Well, if he wants to renounce, or if he don't want to renounce that country's citizenship, and so that he can give an application for Indian citizenship that can be accepted under nationalization product. And another condition, if you can see, that he has either resided in India or been in the service of a government in India, or partly serviced, so on that person throughout the period of 12 months immediately preceding the date of application. Well, if a person, he is actually a resident in India and he is working in government position, which was actually he was serving in government of India. So throughout the period of 12 months immediately after preceding the date of application, so after giving application for the naturalization, if he works around a period of 12 months in any of the government service, or any of works in government of India, so that he was actually even residing in India, so then he's gonna get his you know Indian citizenship by naturalization. There are some other conditions to fulfill this naturalization process. You can go through them again. So you can, I'm just giving you the major difference or the major conditions that required for the naturalization. And now the last and final one, by incorporation of territories. So what exactly is this? If any foreign territory, so if you're gonna undertake any foreign territory, like India acquired any foreign territory, so the government of India will give that territory people, well, if you can define as a specified people of that specific people of that territory, where the central government can give the status of Indian citizenship to them. So that is why the incorporation of territories uh, is one of the acquisitional way for Indian citizenship. The government will provide the citizenship to that people of the acquired or the undertook of that territory by India. Well, if I want to give an example which is also in your Lakshmikant book, it's a very important or very a relatable example for this is like when Pondicherry became the part of India. You all know when Pondicherry become the part of India, where the government of India issued citizenship to the Pondicherry people under Citizenship Act 1955. So under the Citizenship Act 1955, they given citizenship, Indian citizenship to the Pondicherry people. So that is what. So these are the 5 ways to get Indian citizenship: by birth, by descent, by registration, by naturalization, and by incorporation of territories. I hope you all understand these acquisitions. Now let's see how we're gonna lose the citizenship. Sorry about that. And let's see the law, how we gonna lose this citizenship. Well, there are three kind of ways that you're gonna lose your Indian citizenship, so keep that in mind. So the first one, by renunciation, by termination, and by deprivation. So we're gonna discuss each and everything now. So by renunciation, the very first one, so any citizen of India who with his own capacity can make a declaration of renouncing his Indian citizenship, like the registration of that declaration that the person ceases to be an Indian citizen. Well, if he wants to renounce his citizenship in India, well, the person can renounce it, that he by registration, where he was going to renounce or where he was going to seize his citizenship of India. Well, a person who actually giving up by his own will. So when he wants to giving up, so renounce is nothing but giving up. So when he was giving up his citizen, or when he was stopping to be an citizen. Well, if a person who can renounce or who can seize, like renounce is nothing but he was giving up the Indian citizenship by his own will, or seize is nothing but to stop. So he don't want to have the status of Indian citizenship for him. So he's gonna seize or he's gonna renounce it by the registration under citizenship. So that's how he's gonna renounce his citizenship. Now, by termination. Well, termination is actually under, it was like voluntarily. Well, the person who was voluntarily giving up Indian citizenship by undertaking or by taking up any other country's citizenship. So, where is going to where that automatically, well, if I am Indian citizen, if I give you in the example format, well, I am an Indian citizen. Well, I've acquired an US citizenship, so automatically my Indian citizenship is going to get cancelled. So I will be an citizen of United States. So it's going to be automatically terminated if you acquire other countries citizenship. So that comes under termination. And the next one is by deprivation. Well, this is a compulsory termination of Indian citizenship by government, by central government or government of India, if we can say. Well, on what basis the deprivation is going to be happen? Well, the citizen has obtained the citizenship if a person who obtained the citizenship by fraud. So if he if he took the citizenship under a fraudulent manner, that where the deprivation is going to happen. And the citizen has shown a disloyalty towards our constitution of India, or the citizen has unlawfully traded. Well, if he unlawfully traded or communicated with the enemy, with our enemy during a war, with our enemy during a war. And the other one is like the citizen where he has 5 years after registration or naturalization, where 5 years after registration or naturalization, where he was spent his 2 years of time in any country's prison. So if a person within 5 years after registration or naturalization was being imprisoned 2 years in any country, he's gonna lose his citizenship by under deprivation of you know central government's rules. And the last and final one, the citizen has ordinarily resident outside of India. Well, outside of India continuously for 7 years. So if he's staying outside of India continuously for 7 years, then he's going to lose his citizenship under deprivation condition. So these are the conditions that comes under deprivation and termination and renunciation. I hope you all understand how we're going to lose our citizenship. Now let's get to our next thing, which is like citizenship and fundamental rights. Well, if you can see here, the constitution confers the following rights and privileges of on the citizens of India and denies the same for aliens. So we all seen that being as a citizen of India, we do have certain privileges of our rights, where the aliens cannot, where the friendly or even the enemy aliens cannot have that privilege to enjoy certain rights. So these are the rights that we enjoy, where The very first one, which is like the right against discrimination on grounds of religions, race, sex, place, or birth, which comes under Article 15. Now, the second one, which comes under Article 16, where the right to equality of opportunity in matter of public employment, and right to freedom of speech, expression, assembly, association, movement, resident, and profession, which comes under Article 19. Now, four, the cultural and educational rights, which respectively comes under Article 29 and 30, and right to vote in elections to the Lok Sabha and State Legislative Assembly. These are the five rights, and some more rights are also there. Where here, so the right to contest for the membership of the parliament and state legislature, where we have that privilege, and the eligibility to hold certain public officers position, that is like president of India, vice president of India, judges of Supreme Court and high courts, and governors of states, attorney general of India, and advocate general of states. So these are certain public offices positions where we hold the eligibility, um, unless the friendly and enemy aliens were gonna where they cannot get the privilege. So these are the seven rights that were enjoyed by Indians or Indian citizens when comparing to the friendly or enemy aliens. So these are the rights that we're gonna get. If you can see again, so Article 15, Article 16, Article 19, Article 29 and 30, and Parliament and legislative membership, public offices. These are the things that gonna enjoy by us rather than enemy aliens. Now, a Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, because why I have given this? So this was actually celebrated on 9th January every year to mark the contribution of overseas Indians community in the development of India, where we gonna honor the overseas Indians on this day, like which is 9th January, on the name of Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. So I've given a small example where the Mahatma Gandhi, the greatest Pravasi, were returned to India from South Africa. So that's how India's freedom struggle was changed and started. That's it actually changed the Indians' life forever. So it's just a small example that I've given here. Well, Pravasi Bharatiya Divas conventions are being held every year since 2003. So, since 2003, it's been a ritual for us where every year it's going to be conducted on celebrated on 9th January. So, these conventions provide a platform to the overseas Indian community to engage with the government and people of the land of their ancestors, mutually beneficial activities. So, where they're gonna get to know about their ancestral lands, and they get to know about their country's development and everything. And during this event, individuals of exceptional merit are honored with the prestigious Pravasi Bharatiya Samman Award to appreciate their roles in Indians' growth. The event also provides a forum for discussing key issues concerning the Indian diaspora. Well, the Pravasi Bharatiya Samman Award was also given for the exceptional, merit on by the overseas Indians. So, well, I'm gonna give you a task where do let me know who got this Pravas Bharatiya Samman Award for 2019 Pravas Bharatiya Divas event. So, under 2019, who got this award? Do let me know in today's doubt session. That was your today's task. So, do let me know that. So, that is about Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. And finally, the Citizenship Amendment Act 2015, which is like a recent amendment act in which it was actually introduced in Lok Sabha on 27th Feb 2015, and passed by Lok Sabha on 2nd March 2015, and this bill subsequently introduced in Rajya Sabha as well, and it got clearance on 4th March 2015. So this bill received the assent of President of India on 10th March 2015. So The bill was actually, introduced in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, where it got cleared, and even the president was given his assent. So, and that came into 6th Jan 2015 into force. It deemed, in the self, it started on 6th January. So that's how it's gonna got ended up in 10th March 2015. Well, what exactly this amendment act was introduced for a concept of overseas citizenship, or overseas citizen of India card holder, which is like OCC, that essentially replaces the mergers of OCI and PIO. Well, what OCI is like, the overseas, which is nothing but overseas citizen of India, overseas citizen of India, and PIO is nothing but the person of Indian origin, person of Indian origin. So by combining these both, where the OCC was actually, the concept was introduced through this act, which is nothing but the overseas citizen of India card holder. So this was the latest amendment, and if you can see, I've given the comparative chart of NRI, given NRI, PIO, person of Indian origin, PIO card holders, and OCI. So I've given the major differences, like who is called an RIPIO, PIO card holder, and OIC. Well, you guys do let go through this chart, which is also present in your Lakshmikant book. So do go through this chart, who is eligible, and how can one get, so how can we get it, and where to apply this kind of card holders, and how much the fees, and what benefits one is entitled to it, and does he or she require visa for visiting India under this, and is he required to register with local police authorities in India, and what activities can be undertaken in India, and how can one acquire Indian citizenship through this. So these are the important things, or the major differences that gonna define between NRI, PIO and PIO card holder, and OIC card holders. So do go through these differences, and if you have any doubts, do let me know. Well, actually, it's just a difference between all these, who, how, so what are the rules that we can get, and what are the privileges that we're gonna get. So these are the things that you're gonna see in that tabular form. I hope you all will understand by seeing that. And if you don't plot, do let me know. I'm gonna explain that in our doubt session class, if you have any issues dealing with some points where you don't understand. Now that's how that's how we're gonna came uh, to the end of our citizenship portion. So these are the things that gonna deal with citizenship portions, where you're gonna see these PCIO thing, yes, articles, where we have seen Indian citizenship, how we're gonna get it, and what are the constitutional bases, Article 5, 6, 7 till 11, and the statutory basis and the amendments, how so many four times, and how we gonna get, or the acquisition of Indian relationship through 5 ways, and how we gonna lose our citizenship, which are 3 ways, and what are the fundamental rights or the basic rights that we're gonna enjoy being as an Indian citizen, comparing to the friendly and enemy Indians. So these are the things, and we have seen one more thing, which is Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, and do let me know Pravasi Bharatiya Samman Award who got for 2019, on what basis, and Citizenship Amendment Act 2015, where it actually introduced that OCC card, and these are the comparative chart between NRI and those things, how, who, what, and what are the privileges that you're going to get. So that's how we came to an end for our citizenship. Now let's get deal with the fundamental rights, a very very important topic for not only for prelims, mains, and even for interviews. Actually, it's just a very important concept that you cannot miss out, which is also very one of the important portions that you have to cover in polity or Indian constitutional or Indian constitution subject. So fundamental rights, let's get start. Well, I'm just gonna give you a brief introduction about fundamental rights. So what are fundamental rights, how we derived or how we differentiate fundamental rights from human rights and everything, and we're gonna discuss thoroughly about each and every article in our upcoming classes. No need to worry, it's just an introduction about fundamental rights. So if you can see here, what exactly is the right I've given? Well, it is defined as a power or a claim possessed by an individual against others, recognized and upheld by the state. Rights are claims, social claims necessary for the development of human personality. So a right is nothing but it's just a claim or a power that you own on certain issues or on that particular thing. So it's just rights are very much necessary for the human personality development, not only human personality development, even for the society as well. So if you own a right, that's how you're going to differentiate well our society and how we're going to develop and how we're going to see the issues. So if you have a right, you will have a voice, and if you have the privilege of having rights on certain issues, so that's how the development keep on goes. And now that's about what exactly is the right defines. And now fundamental rights, well, fundamental rights are comes under part 3 of our constitution from articles 12 to 35. Well, this part 3 of constitution was actually defined as you know magna carta magna carta of India, where it has it's very long and comprehensive list of justicable rights. Well, in our country, the fundamental rights are the fundamental rights are more elaborated comparing to the other countries fundamental rights, other countries constitution. If you can see them, our fundamental rights are more elaborated in our constitution comparing to the other countries constitution. So fundamental rights, the rights which are essential or fundamental for the well-being of a person, are called fundamental rights. Well, these are the rights that you're gonna deem by, it was actually deemed by Supreme Court to receive the highest level of constitutional protection against government interference. So these are the fundamental rights where um, the Supreme Court has given the power for citizens itself, where the parliament cannot interference on this fundamental rights. So that's how the basic structure, as you all can remember the Keshwar and the Bharati case, so where the basic structure cannot be cannot be over controlled by parliament. So this is what it actually defines. So these are the fundamental rights. What exactly are the fundamental rights? The rights which are essential or fundamental for well-being of a person are called fundamental rights. Now we do have certain rights which are called moral rights versus legal rights, where moral rights and legal rights. So what are these rights? Well, moral rights depends on the ethical feelings of a man and woman, and they are not guaranteed by any legal authority. Moral rights are like, those are the ethical rights when it compares to the, irrespective of gender, or it may be differentiate in genders as well. Well, parents have the right that they should be assisted by their children in their old age. If their children do not serve them in their old age, they cannot seek the help of any command of law. So I've given a very small example for the moral right thing. Well, if our parents uh, fall in their old age, where the children has to help them, but if the children cannot help them, so we cannot so these parents cannot assist any any law and order where they can have, you know where they can be helped to get the privilege of what they were requiring from their children. So that cannot be happened. So unfortunately we don't have any moral rights laws, or laws under moral rights. So that is a moral right thing. And when it comes to the legal rights are those rights which are guaranteed to an individual by law and are protected by the states. So legal rights are further divided into civil and political rights. So the legal rights were actually divided into two more other rights, where you can get the privilege of having you know an individual law, or it actually protected by the state. So right to life, right to vote, etc., these are our legal rights. So right to vote is a legal right, where it was actually there is a law for that, and you're gonna get assisted by law if your legal right was violated by anyone. Now, legal rights, as I mentioned, like there are two kinds of legal rights, which are civil rights and political rights. Well, what civil rights? These rights are protected constitutionally or legally as fundamental rights that everyone should enjoy, irrespective of his or her status. So the civil rights is nothing but there are another kind of fundamental rights where everyone have a privilege to enjoy it, irrespective of gender. And when it comes to the political rights, so these rights enable a citizen to have share in the affairs of the state. By virtue of these rights, a citizen gets the opportunity to participate in the administration of state. The political rights is nothing but where the citizen have a privilege to participate or to get an opportunity to deal with the administration of a particular or of his or irrespect the respective state that where he's gonna reside. So that comes under political rights. So what are the civil rights? So right to life, right to freedom, right to culture and language, right to equality, right to religion and conscience, and right to association, right to family. So these are his major civil rights. And when it comes to the political rights, where you can see the right to vote, right to be elected, right to public office, right to resident, right to criticize government, and right to protection while staying abroad, and right to public meeting. So these are the political rights and these are the civil rights, which the both combine to form legal rights. So I hope you all understand. Now you'll get an idea. So right to life is your civil legal right, and right to vote is your political legal right. So these that's how you're gonna differentiate your rights. I hope you all can organize, like right to life is not only your civil right, it's actually your legal right as well, which comes under civil right. So you can argue with people, or you can tell people that I have a right to vote, which is my political right given under legal rights of our constitution, where the law was actually made under this. So these are the rights. And if you can see the fundamental rights and human rights, well, this is also a very common genre, fundamental rights and human rights. So what exactly are the fundamental rights and what exactly are human rights? Well, rights being a citizen, being a human being a citizen of India, you're gonna get particular fundamental rights. And being as a human being, as a species, under the species where you've been a human, so you're gonna get your human rights. So if you can see the differences, the domestic and national in outlook and application, available to citizens, adopted in constitutions and have definite remedies. Fundamental rights are fraction of human rights. And when it comes to the human rights, has both national and international outlook as well as application. Well, human rights has not only on the basis of nation, but on international outlook as well. Human rights as a major source. When it comes to fundamental rights, it's just only in and around your country, in your state and in your country. Well, it available to all persons, non-citizens as well. Not only the citizens of India, well, overall the persons who are like non-citizens of any other countries, or respect of any other countries or states, they all it is available to all of the persons in the world. And not all human rights are enshrined in constitution. Well, the fundamental rights were actually elaborated and defined in our constitution, each and everything, but unfortunately, only some human rights are enshrined, not all the human rights. Well, rights are larger and wider, because we the species, we are like the highest species, so we do have a larger and wider rights. Well, human fundamental rights, which are like a derivation or a particular part of that human rights, if we can define it as. So these are the major differences between fundamental rights and human rights. And now the human rights, I'm extremely sorry. And now the fundamental rights, which are of six categories, or there are six types of fundamental rights. From Article 14 to 18, right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, cultural and educational rights, and right to constitutional remedies. These are the six fundamental rights we have. Earlier, there used to be right to property as well, but now it was taken away from fundamental rights. So, from Article 14 to 18, where we're going to deal with the right to equality rights, and Article 19 to 22, we're going to deal with the right to freedom. Article 23 and 24, right against exploitation, and from 25 to 28, right to freedom of religion, and from Article 29 to 31, cultural and educational rights, and the final one, Article 32, right to constitutional remedies. So these are the articles that we're going to see in our next class, which is fundamentals, where we're going to discuss each and every article elaborately. So no need to worry, this is just an introduction of fundamental rights. So in our next class we're going to deal with all these six fundamental rights, with each and every article inculcated in that right. So this is the brief or major introduction of fundamental rights. So I hope you all understand this today's class, which is like on citizenship and fundamental rights introduction. So do let me know if you have any doubts in our doubt session today, and don't forget about this 2019's merit or holder of Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, and do check that tabular form of PIOCC OCC NRI thing. Do give it a look so that you will get an even more understanding of NRIs and how these card holders were have the rights. And we have seen what are the six fundamental rights, and from tomorrow onwards we're going to discuss each and every right elaborately with the articles inculcated with it, and what are the fundamental rights, and what are the human rights, and what are the legal rights, in which political and civil rights we have, and what are the moral rights that we have seen. So that's all for today. I hope you all understand the class, and do let me know if you have any doubts in the doubt session, and don't forget about the tasks. So that's all, and stay tuned for our next classes. Have a nice day, and thank you.